I like to thank HBO Max for giving me the chance to watch this movie instead of it being in theaters, because I would probably have skipped this in theaters. Although, if this wasn't on HBO Max, I feel like it would be on Netflix easily. Moonshot is a brand new sci-fi romantic comedy exclusive to HBO Max, written by Max Taxe and directed by Chris Winterbauer. The story is that by the year 2049, yeah, I wonder why they chose that year. People are able to get to Mars in about a month, able to travel from Earth to Mars like a plane or a cruise as a vacation or new home to be at, and like most planes and cruises, it's stupid expensive. Almost $1 million. Enter Walt, played by Cole Sprouse. Walt dreams more than anything to get to Mars and has tried multiple times working around being too poor, but he's not smart enough to prove otherwise. He's just an average nobody who's told he's no one special. But one night at a party, he meets a young woman named Ginny, played by Emily Rudd, who goes to Mars the next day. But the two's first encounter is love at first sight. So, 1 month later, Walt is determined more than anything to get to Mars. The party the two meet at a rich, introverted, but incredibly intelligent college student's place named Sophie, played by Lana Condor, who plans for everything, becomes worried as her boyfriend Calvin, played by Mason Gooding, is on Mars with his family. When Walt pisses Sophie off, he later tries to make it up to her, getting them both drunk, and convinces her to go to Mars to be with her love by accident, annoying him how simple it was for her to easily buy a ticket. But Walt learns of a way to actually join the trip too, illegally. So using Sophie without her knowing it, Walt sneaks on the ship, and with it working at first, Sophie finds Walt and realizes they both could get into big trouble thanks to Walt's stupidity, so now they have to wait on the spaceship to get to Mars to get what they want, but they might not know what they really want when they spend more time with each other. So where do you think this story is actually going to go? Like, seriously, do you not know where this story is going to go? How dumb can you be to not know where the story is going to go? I don't hate romantic comedies as long as they are, either actually more funny than less or well written enough, and this movie isn't that. The concept of Walt being a stowaway on the spaceship to Mars is in no way taken advantage of. Like, this story could be written to be on a cruise ship and it be exactly the same, except for one scene that's probably the space equivalent of scuba diving or something, but I'll get back to that later. You know the story's about them not getting along at first, but over time they learn to enjoy each other's company and find something they didn't think they feel more than just friends for each other at first, or something. But that's the reason the movie doesn't work. Both Cole Sprouse and Lana Condor do a great job with their performances, but the characters are way too two-dimensional, where Sprouse is supposed to be such a dumb average nobody without a plan, which kind of ties into the story, and Condor playing an uptight introvert who always plans for everything. And other than a couple things, it never feels like there are interesting characters. And don't get me wrong, they play these parts great, like you expect. And the characters have chemistry, just not romantic chemistry. I mean, I buy over time they get along, but after the scene where they go space scuba diving, I guess for lack of a better word, I don't know what else to call it, they suddenly feel romantic feelings for each other, but it never felt natural, since they have good chemistry as friends, but not as a couple. And with these kinds of rom-coms, unless you think the couples they aren't already with would be much better pairs than the ones between the leads, it's hard for me to want them to be together against when they already seem to have people they would be much better with. Them getting along and hanging out isn't the same thing as romance, since they still don't share interests or seem like a better relationship than the ones they are already with. I mean, granted, what would I know? I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm the only guy on the planet who actually liked Ansel Elgort's and Rachel Zegler's chemistry in West Side Story, so yeah, don't quote me. I remember movies like Marry Me or The Royal Treatment, with the former and latter both having a predictable story, jokes hit or miss, but the leads do have great chemistry and do actually do stuff I feel like they make a good couple for. I remember liking Marry Me for the leads, but the movie just wasn't as funny as I like, and this movie is barely funny since, like I said, it doesn't take advantage of it being a rom-com in space. And the only time I laughed at this movie was when Zach Braff shows up later. That actually was my favorite part of the movie and almost makes up for him in Cheaper by the Dozen, telling Sprouse just how average he really is. But that leads to the story's issues with this movie having sub-characters and subplots that go completely nowhere. Okay, being not completely nowhere, just, I want to say the right amount of nowhere, but I have no idea what that would actually mean. Like, what's the right amount of nowhere if it's nowhere to begin with? These are the questions this movie raises. So yeah, like another couple on the spaceship with them, Walt inspires for them to get engaged, and they are dropped from the movie from that point, but specifically how Sophie wants to help Earth out with its garbage problem. It's shown in the movie Mars dumps any trash it has back on Earth, which I thought was interesting, but it goes nowhere when it feels like that was said to be an important part of the story, when it could also be taken out and it wouldn't change anything. I thought in the royal treatment, when both characters say they want to do charity work, they, actually did charity work. Like, they did what they set out to do. I don't know. The movie isn't awful, but it's just not good enough for it to really work. If it weren't for the incredibly likable performances of the leads, this movie wouldn't have worked out well as it did. Which isn't an awful film, since there are good scenes. The production design is great, and there are jokes I think work. I just don't remember them other than the Zach Braff scenes. But the romance in the romance story just feels forced, when I think it could have been more interesting, or honestly, be more charismatic if it wasn't a romance story. Maybe just a melodrama, but in space. I don't know. The movie is mediocre to okay at best, since it just never takes advantage of its concept, but there are good scenes with good performances, but forgettable dialogue and dumb character choices from characters that should be smart, and overall, it's just not investing enough for me to care for the two leads for me to want them to get together. This movie is called Moonshot, when they're heading to, Mars, so I don't know. I just don't know. I know these two leads had done and will do better projects, and maybe if they were in a better written movie, they could work as a couple. But here, the movie has no shot for reaching for the stars. I give Moonshot a 4.5 out of 10.